right, we're back. So, what age did you start walking and talking?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
remember?
can't even remember if Mother ever mentioned it. I wasn't slow or anything. But I don't think I was, Speedy Gonzalez either.
So, you think people would say you kind of
Probably,
developed
yeah,
normally?
before I was two.
Safe to say you developed
yeah,
kind of
one and
normally
a
there.
half or something like that.
Okay. How have friendships changed in your life as you aged?
I don't make friends, lifelong friends as much. I mean, I've kept the ones that I made through my working days and that kind of thing. And years. My oldest friend is we've been friends for over 50 years.
Wow.
And we've traveled together and that kind of thing. So, um, you just, and you lose them. I mean, classmates. I see a classmate is dead from college or high school or whatever. So I keep up with that.
Yeah, makes sense. What age did you feel the most kind of socially connected with other people, do you think?
Probably in my, well, I would, probably after I went, when I was at school and then started working, I got into all kinds of organizations, started sitting on a lot of different boards in the town that I was in Maryland. And so it has to be probably, either late 30s or early 40s.
Okay.
So I was very connected to the town.
Would you say you're more introverted or extroverted nowadays?
Even though I don't get out and do a lot, I still feel the same. So I'm really an extrovert.
Yeah, more kind of chatty, go up and talk to someone on the street
Absolutely.
kind of thing.
Absolutely, have no problem with that. I like doing it.
And you said you liked, that was kind of how you were when you were younger as well.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So at the age you felt most like connected socially, so you said 30 or 40s, how would you have described yourself, like kind of just like personality wise? Like, were you the wild child? Were you mild, kind of mannered, nerd, jock?
No, I wasn't a wild child. We couldn't be wild children. I was always pretty responsible growing up, and I'm being an extrovert. I was always, like the civic club president or the president of my class, or I was sort of in a leadership positions. But that was really pretty comfortable, and I loved going to parties. I always found somebody that was standing there all alone, and walk up and start talking to them, and they just, it's fun to do that because you learn, from somebody new, but it really helps them too because they,
kind of brings them out of their shell a bit, especially at parties.
Yeah.
I know that. What was the most challenging age socially for you? Would you say, like the most age you felt most disconnected socially?
I went to an all Catholic girls' school,
mm-hmm.
and so and being the oldest of a lot of children, I had responsibilities at home, so I think those were the
most challenging.
Yeah.
So you were the oldest of how many kids?
Second oldest.
Second oldest of
7.
Ooh, 7. You think that's where sounds like it might be where a lot of the responsibility kind of came from?
Oh,
having to take care of them.
Absolutely.
Rambunctious little children you have to take care of. How do you feel your culture affected how you developed over the years, compared to like an Eastern culture or maybe just like any other continent's kind of development, if you are knowledgeable about it?
Not really. I mean, I always felt very American. My father was Cajun French,
mm-hmm.
and so my grandparents spoke French. They didn't speak English, and so I felt we didn't live there, but we would go visit, and all the cousins that lived there, they all could understand grandmother and grandfather and their French, and we were a little lost, as to, but we managed.
as to what they were saying. So you grew up in more of a Cajun kind of French speaking culture.
Yeah, mother wasn't, but she cooked like that, and you know, we were just young. You know, it was young Americans. I mean, both my parents were very um, um, civic minded.
Mhm.
Dad was always the president of the Rotary or whatever club there was in town, in town. Mother was, was started the the parent teacher thing at the school in Texas. I remember she got that started, and so she was always was busy with things like that. So
Sounds like social engagement's been very important for your
Yeah,
family over the
yeah,
years, especially around the community.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. In the last 20 years, have you experienced any significant changes in your relationships with children, and specifically with children? Like any ones you felt closer with, gotten farther away from, kind of distanced with?
Well, because I have lived with some of my family throughout the years, um, I think I'm close to um, most of my grandchildren. I have one set that still are in Maryland that I'm probably not as close to because I don't have the opportunity to be, but I think I'm close to all of the others.
Yeah, you feel like you speak to them, reach out to them enough?
Oh,
Good amount?
absolutely, yeah.
Sounds fun. Have you found that your role in your family has changed in the last 20 years?
The role?
Like your role,
Oh,
position in the family?
absolutely, yeah. Well, I don't no longer have the responsibility of
Yeah.
raising children, but I try to help out in terms of household chores and shopping and things like that, things that I can easily do, and that I feel make a difference.
Yeah. So thinking about like 20 years ago, what would you
But
say?
I don't have the responsibility. I mean, the real responsibility is
Yeah, with the parents. Yeah.
parents.
What would you say your role was like 20 years ago, and what was that like?
20 years ago.
So 63.
Yeah. Hmm. It was pretty much the same, I think. I was just I was a little more mobile and traveled a lot and things like that. So, but I have lived on and off with my children for years. So
Okay, so kind of like a supportive caregiver and mentor, maybe,
yeah,
or
I would hope that would be a role that I have played.
yeah. And it sounds like that's pretty similar and pretty standard still today.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. How has your involvement in religious, spiritual, or cultural communities changed over the last 20 years?
Well, I'm not as I haven't been as committed, or I haven't done anything here.
Yeah, I remember you said you were Catholic.
Yeah. So I'm even. I mean, I don't even really practice my religion the way I was raised. But
Yeah.
I think that's happened to a lot of people my age.
Yeah. What would you say your growing up religious was like? Like, was it a very big cornerstone of who you were? Or
Oh,
like,
it
what
was. Well, we all went to Catholic schools, and I had a very religious mother and father, and it was mass on Sundays, every Sunday, or Saturday night, depending on what. But all the holidays, we just had a religious feel or a background to it. My parents were very devoted Catholics.
Yeah. Do you still feel religiously and spiritually kind of involved?
I feel it in my heart. I don't go out and actively practice my religion like I did when I was in my 30s, 40s, 50s.
Do you think that's more of off of like kind of change of how you view your religion, or more of ability
No,
to
it's
get there?
well, it's a combination, I guess. Like anything else, religious pageantry and that kind of thing changes over the years. I don't know, I just got a little bit lazy, I guess.
Yeah, just it also must be a lot harder to go kind of like to these organized religious services kind of stuff. Have you
Right.
tried utilizing like any of the like online stuff? I know technology's changed a lot over the years.
No, because I haven't changed with technology, so.
Have not changed with it. Makes sense. What accomplishments of the last 20 years are you most proud of?
Accomplishments over the last 20 years. Hmm, I don't know. I've helped raise some grandchildren. I'm pretty proud of that. I've been around, helped take care of my mother for a while. Um, that's about it. I haven't been as involved in the last 20 years than I was in my earlier years.
Yes. What would you say your accomplishments were, like the most important accomplishments you had like around your earlier years were then? Because it sounds like a lot of your accomplishments in the later years were more like fulfilled in familial kind of like bonds and
Right,
stuff.
right. Was that? Well, that was during the peak of my career, and I was in banking, and of course, part of the banking co- community is always part of the larger community, and you'll find a lot of different bankers on boards and whatever. So I sat on all kinds of boards of directors. I'm on the Chamber
Yeah.
of Commerce, on the Business Exchange, on not-for-profit. Vantage Place was one of them, and we had housing for the people who were coming out of institutions, and that they were trying to live on their own, and we would give them housing and have people there to help them and
Okay.
that kind of thing. So I've been I was very involved in my working years in not-for-profits, and I ended up at the end of my career being the executive director of a not-for-profit loan fund that helped small businesses get started.
Cool. So it seems like most of your accomplishments back then were more like kind of self fulfilling, kind of like business and
Mm-hmm.
success in the workplace kind of
Yeah,
based.
and community.
Yeah, a lot of
all
community
of
help.
that was all involved, and yeah, that was pretty much, you know.
Do you feel like you would have felt as accomplished if it hadn't been like kind of helping people? I know you said your most proud accomplishments were kind of ones where you're giving out loans and helping people come out of institutions.
No. I think there was a need for those things, and I sat on those boards, and that it's at one point, you know, I run of them for like 8 or 10 years. I'm not even sure. But no, yeah, it was all very community oriented, and it was a community that was really for helping other people.
Yeah.
It was a planned community in Maryland, and it was just you had people who were really into making it a good place to live
So
and
big.
work and go to school and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it seems like a big emphasis on all the accomplishments over the years is kind of like building community and building like interconnectedness with people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I love doing that too. What have you learned about yourself in the last 20 years, just how you are, who you are as a person?
Well, I've learned certain that the most important thing in my life is family. That I've gotten a little lazy about getting out in the community. I did so much of that in my working days, where I was just out, you know, in different areas of the community all the time. So that when I did finally retire, that I just really stepped away from all of that.
Yeah.
And but I look back, and I enjoyed that part of my life.
Yeah, you felt proud of it overall. Seems like an accomplishment. What would you say your role in society has kind of changed to? So I know we've discussed a lot of your kind of like familial role changes. How would you say your role in society in general has played?
Oh, I think it's just, you know, it's gone away. I kind of committed myself to family and a few of my friends that are still around, and and you know that's pretty much it. I no longer am out in the community the way
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, so it's more focused on kind of like the close people to
And
home kind
yeah,
of stuff.
absolutely, and familial.
Which I feel like that makes sense too. I mean, as you age, you want to get closer to the family members.
Yeah,
as well.
and you don't have the energy to keep. You have to, at some point you have to, you turn all of those responsibilities, because you've already done them all your life. You let the next generation come through and do it. It's their time.
Yeah, and you let them build it. It's our generation's time, hopefully soon. So, what are your hopes and goals for this kind of next chapter of your life? This like kind of
Stay well,
Mhm.
to remain mobile, to still travel. I just got back from Scotland.
Ooh.
Several. I went in the spring, and even though it was harder for me to travel this time, I think. I still don't want to give that up.
Yeah.
I love travel. I would really like to go back to Italy. I loved Italy, and I'd love to go and visit more places in France than I've been to. And there's a lot. I have no desire really to go to the Orient. I've been to Hong Kong, and that was really nice. But I have no desire to do that, or Australia or New Zealand.
Some more desires to visit like
Because
Europe.
I think it would be horrendous for me to travel all that distance. It's hard enough as it is. And I will try to stay away from Heathrow as long as I possibly can. It is one of the things that is not that pleasurable.
The least
travel.
pleasurable things.
Yeah.
Would you say traveling has gotten a lot harder over the years, over the last like 20 years?
Yeah, in a way it has. In some respects it hasn't. But there's a lot more people out there traveling than it was when I was traveling years ago.
Oh yeah.
But you just go do your thing and go through it.
Yeah, you
Get
through
there and see everything you possibly can see. So.
Yeah, so it seems like this chapter of life is more about exploring, kind of seeing
So
everything around you.
I'm hoping that I don't think I have that many more years left in being able to do that, but I will. I've got my sights set on a few other places I'd like to
What
visit.
places have you got set?
Well, I've been to Italy, but I'd like to see more of it, especially the southern part of Italy and the southern part of France.
Okay.
I'd like to spend some more time in France.
Yeah, and it seems like a big concern of you is kind of being able to stay mobile and stay active. Do you foresee any kind of challenges in being able to travel or like achieve any of these goals over the next couple of years?
No, as long as a lot of times I found that if I go there, even though I can walk, some of these airports are really impossible to get around in, and I just get in, I get into a wheelchair and wheeled around and brought to the gate and that kind of thing, and it does make it easier to travel that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. How would you say you feel about the legacy you've created over the last basically your entire lifetime? How would you say your legacy is?
I think the most important thing really are family, my children. I think I had 3 children and they all turned out wonderful, and they've had families, and I'm close to everybody, and that's the most important. That's the most important thing. I did have one really in a vocational way. I was the lead banker on the selling of the Baltimore Oreos to my client at the time, Peter Angelos in Baltimore, and that was just such a fun
Fun thing.
time. Yeah.
Nice little thing to be like, hey, do you know I did this?
Yeah, I loved that. And and it wasn't just Peter Angelo's, it was called the Hometown Team. And Tom Clancy,
Oh, the writer?
the writer, was part of that. And Pam Shriver, who was a tennis player, was Sergeant Shriver, who was the brother-in-law of President Kennedy, was on that in that group. So it was really exciting, an exciting time,
Yeah.
and a fun thing to put together, and to see it close, and to see all the changes, and that was wonderful.
Okay, so it seems like you have some pretty good business deals that lasted over the years as well
Yeah,
with Orioles.
yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of your legacy revolves around kind of like family and the like kind of. Seems like you were able to build a bit of community as well in the places that you were in.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Let's see. Which question do I want to ask you? How do you hope others remember you as your life goes on, or when you, unfortunately, like one day when you pass, how would you hope to be remembered?
That first of all, I'd like to be remembered as a good person, someone who was caring and kind, and passed on good qualities to my children. And the legacy really is family, and I think I've done a good job there. And that's pretty much how I want to be thought of.
Yeah. Have you put any thought into kind of what you want to have happen to you or your body after you pass one day?
Absolutely.
Do you know what your dream is? What is it?
Just cremate me and
Cremated?
and then instead of spending money for a big funeral and stuff like that,
Take it on a trip?
take the money and go spread me somewhere fun that I might have liked to have gone, or I have gone, maybe just to Hawaii and the islands or whatever. So it's up to my 3 kids how they want to handle it, but that's how I do not want
big burials. Yeah, I know.
Big.
I know. It seems like those have gotten less popular over the years.
I think,
I know a more popular thing that people have been doing over the years is actually like these burial pods that turn into big trees after they decompose after a while. So a lot more ingenuity ones. And the last question is, how has your view of the world changed? Kind of like how the world operates, how it runs, kind of stuff.
It was doing just fine, and now that we're into another upheaval in this country in terms of politics and leadership and that kind of thing, I think it's going to be pretty hard for me to listen to. But I'm sure, like everything else, we'll survive this.
Yeah.
I just hope we survive it intact. I just, I love my country. I mean, I grew up in, saying the Pledge of Allegiance and having the flag on the 4th of July and parades and all of that. I mean, I've seen some, some changes in the government and that kind of thing, but what's going on now is just more than just changes. It's really
scary.
It is.
Yeah.
It's changing the whole who we are, really.
So it seems like you grew up pretty patriotic and politically aware.
I think I grew up in a time where everybody was patriotic.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to Catholic schools, but we started every day with the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. It was just it was all part of, and we were taught civics. I think kids today don't have a clue what this country is all about. And we knew. I mean, there were three parts of the government, and they were all worked together, but they were separate. And I'm not saying it's a perfect country. I mean, when you look in terms of of different groups being lesser, so to speak. I mean, I guess I was blessed being a Caucasian woman, but I'm looking at it now and I'm seeing how even all the fights that women's issues and all the strides we've made, it's all just going away.
Yeah.
It's really sad. So that makes me sad, and that my children and grandchildren are going to have to deal
Yeah.
with what's going on in a very different country than.
Yeah. Would you say you've become more politically like involved over the years? Like, has your political view changed at all over the last like 20 years, or has it been most of the same?
No, I'm proud to say I'm a Democrat. But I liked when we had two-party system,
parties.
and you didn't panic when the other party won.
Yeah.
You just realized, well,
Like, darn.
it was a different, they're in power now, so they'll be in charge, and it wasn't scary. But I do know this country's been through an awful lot. I mean, you don't even know about it until, I'll be watching television and hear about what was going on in the 30s or the 40s or whatever, and like, gosh, I didn't realize that was happening.
Yeah.
So, they said, that.
Makes sense. Yeah. Well, that's all the time we've got. Thank you for letting me interview you.
Well, it was a
a pleasure.
Pleasure to be interviewed. I hope I was.
You're a great interviewee. Gained a lot of insight here.
Well, good.
Perfect.
Thank you,
All right.
sir.
Thank you.